What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another collaboration beer, this time between the Other Half Brewing Company, and they're out of both Brooklyn and East Bloomfield, New York, along with Washington, D.C., and the Dewey Beer Company, and they're out of Dewey Beach, Delaware, and this is their Cannibal Machine. So they're calling this one a Berliner Weisse Smoothie with pineapple, orange, guava, coconut, and lactose. Comes in at 6% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed in time of review. This can is just under 2 months old. I want to give a huge thanks and shout out once again to a couple good friends of mine and fellow beer tubers, Dan and Mike over at FLX Beer Reviews, for hooking me up with this one. In the description box, I'll post a link to their channel. Great guys. I believe Dan was specifically the one who gave this to me after the 2021 Beer Tuber Palooza that was hosted by another good friend of ours and fellow beer tuber Matt over at Massive Beer Reviews. A lot of beers go home with different people, and Dan threw me the Double Dry Hop Mosaic Dream Haas edition, which I reviewed last week, and he also gave me this one, and yeah, really looking forward to this one. Now, when it comes to Dewey, I've had quite a few beers on the channel that I've reviewed, I think like a half dozen, and I really like their Secret Machine, which is a heavily fruited sour series of beers they do. When it comes to Other Half, I don't think I've had like a heavily fruited sour or like a smoothie sour. Usually review beers from like Mortalis and Froth and whatnot. So I'm curious to see what this one has to offer. And I love pineapple. I love orange, guava, coconut, lactose. Like, hook it up with these, right? We'll see. Is this going to have like the pectin in the fruit puree? I don't know. But I'm pretty pumped to give this one a go. So going to give it a crack, pour it into the glass, see what we got going on. Now, this was brewed. Wow, there is absolutely no... there was absolutely zero hiss when I cracked it open. Interesting. Looks like it wants to come out a little bit. We'll give it a pour here. Yeah, so that does look like pretty heavily fruited. It looks like guava juice to me right now. All right, we'll go like that. Not going to get crazy here, but yeah, it looks kind of like guava juice in the glass. So, and that head's just going to dissipate to a thin film. I already see it. So yeah, that is basically guava juice to a T. Very, very murky and turbid. It had a finger of this off-white looking head that has now dissipated to not even a thin film. It's gone. There's no more head in here, probably from like a lot of the coconut oils and whatnot. It does have a little bit of the pectin. I don't know if it's going to show up on screen, but as a good friend of mine and fellow beer tuber colleague, say the pectin or the the fruit puree, the remnants of the actual fruit puree. But yeah, that looks like a heavily fruited sour. So many that I've had before. Let's get a nose. Wow. So pineapple, orange, guava, coconut, and lactose. I smell guava. It looks like guava juice. This smells like guava. The guava dominates. There's a little bit of like a slight coconut tinge to it. Pretty heavy sweetness from the lactose. Honestly, the pineapple is getting lost, even though it is the first ingredient listed. I don't really smell it. If anything, in order, I'd go guava, coconut, orange, and then just a heavy sweetness to it. It does smell like it's going to have like a guava tartness maybe. But really, it just smells like sweet fruit puree, really. Guava, mostly. That's not a bad thing. I love guava. Guava, passion fruit, two of the more underrated fruits. I don't think enough people probably eat them. I didn't used to eat them until I started drinking beer, and I wanted to eat passion fruit and guava. And about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, I really got into passion fruit, and guava's pretty damn good too. But yeah, it smells pretty good. Nothing crazy. Let's get into it. Cheers, everybody, and thanks again, Dan and Mike. Yeah, it's real tasty. That is real tasty. I'm going to pour the rest in here just in case there's like, more pulp, the puree at the bottom to see if it's a little bit thicker. I'm going to take another sip real quick. Okay, it really didn't change it much. First things first. The body on this one for 6%, it's like higher side of medium, low side of full. This isn't like one of those straight on thick, chewy, crazy fruit smoothie Berliner Weisses. Like the upper echelon bodies, not even in how much I enjoy them, but just in terms of the thickness, this isn't quite to that level, which is nice. It's 6%. I don't want it to be incredibly thick, but it does have a thicker body to it. The mouthfeel, it's smooth, it's creamy, but it does have still carbonation, even though it didn't seem like it. But it's not a ton of carbonation, just lightly carbonated. So body and mouthfeel are nice. The taste though, right at the forefront, I'm hit with guava. Sweet, tart, acidic, just guava on the front of the palate. As it passes through, it's morphing into more of like an orange or like a tangerine type of note. like a really heavy citrus fruit. There's an underlying coconut on the palate for me. It's omnipresent, but it is never the predominant note. This finish is sweeter, no bitterness to speak of. There is a slight dryness on the back of the palate, mixing in with that like acidic tartness. And I would say this one's more firmly tart for me than sour. I do feel the acidity's a bit higher for just a straight tart beer. I feel like when I get this acidic kind of nature to these sours, they're usually full-on sour, like mouth puckering. This is not that at all. So yeah, guava, orange, a little bit of underlying coconut. There is like a touch of like this slight graininess I'm getting from the Berliner Weisse, like a little like a wheat profile. So I taste the beer a little bit more than I do in these Berliner Weisse smoothies because, you know, I hate talking about it in every review, and it seems to just come up because I bring it up myself, but, you know, maybe someone posts in the comments say the same thing. They say a lot of times, these aren't beers at all. Like, you know, this is not a beer. I know you could just make a seltzer and put all that fruit puree in. What's the point of a beer? I've had some heavily fruited seltzers, and I'm not a fan. I just hate that like Alka-Seltzer type of extreme carbonation on the finish. It kind of ruins it for me. So I still prefer the beer being heavily fruited, even though it gets lost more often than not. I think it carries that fruit puree better than like a seltzer. But even though this is beer, yeah, I enjoy it. This isn't a crazy one to me, but it's pretty good. I think it's lacking in complexity. Again, beer doesn't need to be complex to be great, but I think I want the pineapple to show up a little bit more than it does, especially since it's the first character listed. This is like a lot of guava. I would also like this to be a little bit more sour. It's firmly tart. I think with that acidic kind of bite, I would want it to be just like lower sour as opposed to just firmly tart. And I would like maybe a little bit of bitterness or something to break up that sweetness because it does have a pretty heavy fruit sweetness to it. That said, it's still pretty fucking good. So 6%, you can't even tell. Obviously, with a lot of these beers, you don't even pick up on the alcohol. A lot of times, they don't even have alcohol in them. Looking at you, 450 North. I got to review some more 450 North at some point, but I think they stopped like even listing the ABVs again when they had that whole controversy a couple years ago. They started like listing them on their website or on their Facebook page, and I don't think they do anymore. I don't know why I'm talking about 450 North right now, but I am. Anyway, Cannibal Machine, collaboration between Other Half and Dewey. I am going to give this a straight 4.25 out of 5. Really good beer. Really good beer. It hits almost all the marks for me as far as the fruit flavors outside of the pineapple. I just want to see a little bit more complexity and a little bit more of like a sour or even a bitter component to this one to kind of break up that sweetness. Because it's not cloying, but it leans a little bit too sweet for me. And that guava is dominant, which I like. But at the end of the day, there's, 3 different fruits in there, or 4 different fruits and lactose. And I don't know, maybe you could do without the lactose. Anyway, price point and availability. I believe the price point on this was $20 a 4-pack. Dan, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And then availability. This one was brewed at the DC location, but they showed up in Western New York at the East Bloomfield location. So I'm imagining at this point with Other Half being all over the country, like you can find them West Coast, down south, wherever the case may be. When they released this one back in early August, you probably could have found a 4-pack of it locally, maybe. Might even be kicking around now on shelves. Who knows? Here's the thing. I've been out of the beer game for almost a year. Coming back, a lot of these beers, especially ones released this year and newer beers, I can't say I've seen them on shelves. I can't say any of that stuff. So Cannibal Machine gets a 4.25 out of 5. Pretty damn good fruit smoothie, Berliner Weisse. Pretty tasty. Appreciate Dan and Mike hooking me up with this one. And I appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. To the next one. Cheers.